Okay, I am sorry about that.
That's all right.
He's never done that before, and he just showed up next to me,
No, you know
all
what?
naked,
Kids,
saying,
kids
"Help!"
do that. Kids do that. Oh my gosh, I've got 5 kids, and so I know how kids just randomly show
Okay,
up when it happens. So I'm just going to mark the time on that so we can edit that a little bit.
okay. 5 kids. Wow, and I thought I had a lot with 6.
No, no, we're good. Um, cool. All right. So let's kind of step back. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that experience from husband one, learning, growing, changing, and then realizing, oh, I did something similar with husband two.
Yeah. Well, with my first marriage, I was married to Josh, and we were married for 14 years. And in the beginning, it's the beginning is the idolization phase. It's the phase where they are everything you want them to be. They are wonderful. They are kind. They're loving, generous. They're charming, and you want to spend all your time around them, and you know but what you don't realize is that they are mirroring you. They're mirroring your values. They're mirroring um, your personality. They're mirroring everything that you are looking for in a person. And so you don't realize that until later on. But so my first husband, he was great. He was wonderful. He's the guy that you want to take home because, he's charming. He can charm everyone. He can hold a conversation, and he was great. But with him, things didn't start changing until my focus uh, turned away from him. So when I could no longer fawn over him or give him all that validation that he was looking for, he went and sought that from other women. And so, for 14 years, he cheated. And so, what most of us do, we put cheating over here in one category, right? We just say, well, they're a cheater. That's what they do. They cheat. But we never really put the two together and say, no, wait, cheating is psychological and emotional abuse. It is a huge betrayal. And, at the time, my background was, like I was saying, was in domestic violence. But because it wasn't physical, to me, I did not consider myself a victim. I just married a cheater. And how many of us say that and do that? And so when I met my second husband, I thought that uh, I was healed. I thought that I was ready to date again. In fact, I manifested him. I wrote the list out. And how many of us do that? We make the list of the characteristics that we want, we put it out there in the universe. And a week later, I meet a man who checks off every single thing on that list. So in the beginning, like I'm saying, is the idolization phase where they are mirroring you and becoming everything you want them to become. When he would say things like, "You're my soulmate, I've been praying for you." Well, that resonated. I mean, I just manifested him. He checked off every single thing on the list. So how could I not believe that this was, from God as well?
Yeah.
How could I not believe that? And with him, our relationship was the first couple months. We never met in person. So it was all, he lived a couple hours away. And I really, and that was for me because of what I went through in my first marriage. I didn't want to have like a physical relationship right away. I wanted to really get to know this person. And so but here's the tricky thing. How do you know this person is lying? How do you not, how do you see red flags? How do you, um, how do you, know that they're lying when you believe everything that they're telling you? And you believe it because, we trust and we believe people. And you're always looking for the good, not looking for the negative in the relationship.
Right.
And
Right.
so if he is mirroring my values, I remember in the beginning telling him, one of my goals was to sail around the world and to sell everything, get a sailboat and sail around the world. And he's like, "Oh, that's what I've always wanted to do." Come on, I mean, really? Did I just hit the jackpot?
Yeah.
But, again, it's because they are mirroring you and mirroring your values. And
Mm.
so what happens is when the next phase comes, which is the devaluation, this is where the manipulation starts. This is where the gaslighting starts. This is where the mask comes off because someone can only live this double life for so long.
Right.
And that's where it becomes so confusing because you're like, wait a second, you told me all these things, you gave me all these promises, we fall in love with our potential, right? I mean, most people, that's what we do. We fall in love with the potential that we see in the person that we are interested in. And so with the narcissist, we can see that full potential, that wonderful, beautiful life that we can create together. And then this devaluation comes in and it's like, whoa, what just happened here? And so, a term that's thrown around a lot is gaslighting, and I brought that up. So let me just kind of go into that just a little bit. So gaslighting is when you manipulate another person into doubting their perceptions, experiences, and reality or events that took place. So gaslighting, it's coercive control. It is a form of severe manipulation where they try to get you to doubt your experience of what happened. And so it's emotional abuse. It's a highly calculated form of abuse by someone you trust. And that's the one of the keys. It is by someone you trust, and it is um, what's the word I'm looking for? It's intentional. They intentionally manipulate and try to twist your words and your reality. And why do they do that? They do that because it helps them. They don't have to take any blame or responsibility for their actions. If they can say and look straight into your face and say, that didn't happen the way you're describing it, then they don't have to take responsibility for their behavior. So, for instance, let me give you an example. Um, you you had an argument the night before. The argument is about maybe something. Some you notice that they're chatting with a former girlfriend or boyfriend. Okay, you check their phone. Obviously you're having some trust issues here, and they're like, no, that didn't happen. That's not the way it happened. That's just a friend. Oh, they turn it all onto you. Well, you're just super sensitive. You are um, you're taking it too personally. You my second husband, his favorite one was, oh, it's the time of the you're going to start your period soon. That's why you're acting like a bitch right now, bringing all this stuff up. They turn everything around. That's gaslighting. And so what happens over time with the manipulation and the gaslighting and the devaluation, the criticisms, the critiques, the mind games they play, it creates this fog. And this fog is cognitive dissonance. It's where you hold two conflicting beliefs about this person. And so one belief is that they are incredible. They are the most loving person. They are the kindest person. They're everything I've ever wanted. And the other belief is, oh my gosh, they're horrible. They're manipulating me. They're gaslighting me. I'm walking on eggshells now. They're mean. And so what happens when you have these two conflicting beliefs? It
Yeah.
creates all this like conscious confusion. And that's what happens in a relationship with a narcissist. And because of all of this, these two beliefs, this intermittent reinforcement, so it's good, it's bad, it's good, it's bad, if that makes sense. it creates a trauma bond, a trauma attachment to this person. Or I should say, we create it. You know, trauma is our reaction to what has happened to us,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So it's not like they are creating it, they're just being themselves.
Yes.
Their horrible behavior and their horrible thinking and what they're doing, they're not changing. It is us who is changing our attachment to certain things that are happening to us. And
Yeah.
that creates a trauma bond. And so what happens in these relationships, whether, you know, it's domestic violence or narcissistic abuse, whatever, you have this trauma bond, this trauma attachment to this person. And this is why you hear people when you hear people are in these relationships, you're like, well, one, why do you love this person? And two, why don't you just leave? Well,
Yeah.
it's so much more complicated and complex than that, because now we have attached a trauma attachment to this person, and it's harder to leave. And I think of it as an addiction. And so when someone someone first does this drug, they get a really big high, right? They get all this chemical reactions in their brain and this big dopamine release and all of this stuff. And so then they use again, right? And so every time they keep using, they're trying to get that first high, but they never get that first high. Every time it becomes less and less. And similarly, in the relationship with a narcissist, we're looking for that first high. And that first high is the idealization phase. That first high is, but wait, he knows how to love me. He knows how to treat me right. He knows how to be kind and caring. But what we forget is that person that we have idolized, and they have idolized us in the beginning. That was an illusion. That was never real. Because remember, they became that person to get into the relationship with you, but that's not who they are. And so we stay because we're trying to get that person back. Well, what? And now it kind of flip flops. So in the beginning, the narcissist became the person you wanted them to be. Now we are trying to become the person that will bring that first person back who wasn't even real. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. I've got a question. Do you think people can have a trauma bond with the situation? So there's a person in my family who is, we'll call it like they say that they're they're always marrying people that need to be fixed. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're describing this person to a T, in that they know going into a relationship that the person is not perfect and is actually meets that definition, but they're like, but he loves me so much. Like you're actually kind of matching this. Like you're describing
Mm.
this. My mind's kind of like exploding right now, but I'm just kind of wondering,
Oh,
like, after like the fifth husband, I'm like, is she like, when you said it's almost like an addiction, like, is she like addicted to the situation where, oh, I felt it fixing the first person, but I know this other person can love me. Maybe I can fix them.
so
Does that exist?
I think that until the beginning, my beginning story, where you
Hmm.
stuck in this why me? Why do all these things keep happening to me?
Uh-huh.
I truly believe until you learn the lessons and break those patterns, you'll just continue to repeat those cycles. So whether this person is forming an independent attachment, because this person is probably not actively seeking out broken people, but broken people are coming to this person. So
Yeah.
why is that? What is
Yeah.
the deeper cause? And when you look at the cause of these situations, the cause usually goes back to to your thoughts and the mental images in your head that you're picturing. And so until you change those and break those patterns, you'll continue to repeat the cycles. And so for me, what it sounds like, this person has not sat down and introspectively done the hard work, the inward work. If that
Which
makes
also
sense.
makes complete sense. And it's interesting because like this person will do a lot of those narcissistic behaviors themselves towards us, in that
Mm.
she'll flip the scripts on like gaslighting us. Like we'll say, hey, like we've created boundaries, right? Because we can't bring these men into the lives of our family. And so she flips the script on us and no, that's not true. Why can't you be like this, right? And it's almost like she's adopted the same personality
Mhm.
instead of right. This is me just kind of doing my own personal family therapy with you, but so we step back a little bit. Like also, I want to define narcissism a little bit more. We
Yeah.
hear we hear the word, oh, they're a narcissistic person. I feel like that term gets thrown around a lot. And
Yeah.
sometimes I get confused by it because I'm like, wow, that person doesn't feel narcissistic. Like I see how they're controlling or that it's an unhealthy relationship, but are they being called narcissistic because the person just doesn't know what else to call it?
Yeah, and it could very well be that. So narcissist, if you remember back in middle school when we all had to study Greek mythology, Narcissus was a man that fell in love with his reflection. And in fact, once he saw his reflection, he never left the pool. You know, he died there, fully in love with himself. And so narcissism, there is a there are many different narcissists out there, different types. I'm not a
Mhm.
therapist, so I'm
Right.
only speaking from like my personal experience. And my first
Right.
ex-husband was a covert narcissist. My second was an overt, malignant, more very dangerous person. Um, and so, but to be diagnosed as a narcissist, they must meet certain traits. And some of the traits are there this grandiose sense of importance, this grandiose sense of entitlement, of of who they are. They have this belief that people are jealous of them, people are envious of them, everyone wants to be them. They love power, wealth, money, beauty, whatever. They're very charming and charismatic. And so this is what trips you up, because it's like, whoa, they can work the room, they can charm everyone. My second husband, I did the brother-in-law test. My brother-in-law, he's an OSP sergeant. I thought if anyone could tell me, like, okay, this is a good guy, he could go through, former ex-Marine and all this stuff. And it's like, my brother-in-law was manipulated by him as well.
Yeah.
And, when he gave me the green light, I was like, okay, I found a great guy. But this is what they can do. They can manipulate everyone to get what they want. And he manipulated my whole family. And when the mask came off, he was a completely different person. But they lack empathy. They will use you, manipulate you, gaslight you to get what they want. And some of them can give off this false sense of empathy. My second husband, he could do it. He could cry at the moment. He could empathize with you, give you a hug, whatever, if he knew he could get something in return. So it's not like empathy for the sake of empathy. Does that make sense? It's
Yeah.
sometimes they can have this false sense of empathy to get what they want.
Yeah.
They're arrogant. They will exploit you to get whatever they want. And they have this excessive need for admiration. And so, like both my ex-husbands, they wanted all my attention. They want to be fawned all over. They want all your attention. They want you to essentially worship them. but here's the thing. The majority of narcissists are the most insecure people out there. They have the most fragile ego. You say anything about them, they blow up. They can't handle the criticism because their ego is so fragile. And this is why they can blow up so quickly. They can go on a rage so quickly. And so when you look at narcissism, look at it like a cake, a very terrible cake that you don't want. But you have to have all these ingredients that make up the cake. And if you're missing an ingredient, so say, you're talking about this person who has these narcissistic traits, but is this person really a narcissist? Well, take out some of those traits, take out the baking soda and baking powder, you don't have a cake, right? Take out the eggs, you
Right.
don't have a cake. And so you have to have all of it together to have the cake of narcissism.
Gotcha.
And so when some people say it's like, well, the healthy narcissism, no, narcissism is the cake. It is not healthy. Don't eat the cake. Um, yes, you can be confident, and confident is good. But having a confident trait, that's not narcissism. That's different.
Right. So what happens if you have a relationship with a narcissistic person, but you don't buy into um, the way they're trying to woo you, right? Or to like bring you in. How do they behave then? Maybe you're not like attacking their ego, but you're just not responding to their charm. What happens then?
Yeah. So okay. So you said the key word, responding. Narcissists want a reaction.
Hmm.
So you have to look at, so everything we do, we're either responding or reacting. When
Hmm.
you become involved with a narcissist, they condition you to live from a place of reaction because every reaction you give them fuels their need, their desire, their hunger, whatever it is, it fuels it. So if you don't react and you thoughtfully respond, eventually they're just going to not show up in your life anymore because you're not fueling their desire. They're not getting a reaction from you. They will go somewhere else to get the reactions that they need. It's like it is when you break it down so simply like that. It's just they just have a very troubled mind. They're troubled people, um, and so I we all know what the difference between reaction and responding is, right?
Why don't we
So,
define that?
okay, so I was actually just thinking about this a couple days ago. So, um, say someone comes over to your house. They just show up at your door. They're knocking on the door, and it's a woman, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, um, I grew up in this house. This was my childhood at home. I actually my dog is buried in your yard. Can I go over and go into your backyard and maybe spend some time at the dog's grave? You don't even know this." And you react right away like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can't believe your dog's buried in my yard." Well, yeah, of course. Come over. Come see your dog. Yeah, I'm not going to stop you from doing that. So
Yeah.
you reacted without thinking. Now the thoughtful you is like, "Oh my God, she's over here all the time. She's never leaving. She's sitting in my backyard all the time. Now she wants to camp. She wants to know if she can spend the night at the grave. She wants to do all these things. What did I just agree to?"
Yeah.
So so that's a reaction. You just reacted. You feel bad. You want to make them happy. You want to give them everything that you can give them. You want to make them happy, and that's usually like the biggest reaction. Well, how can I make this person happy? And so you react without thinking about it. Now imagine the person comes up to your house and she's like, "Hey, I grew up in this house. It's my childhood home. My dog's buried in your backyard. Can I come see the dog?" Well, now you're going to respond, "Well, oh my gosh, I'm Oh, I'm so sorry that your dog's here. Okay, well, maybe we can set up a schedule. What are you thinking? Like, you want to come over like once? You want to spend 15 minutes, or like, what's the boundaries here? How is this going to play out? Are you going to come over once a week, once a month, or is this just like once a year? You want to pop in for 15 minutes? Like, let's set up some boundaries. Let's figure out what we're going to do here. So you see the difference between I am still caring for this person, but I'm going to have boundaries because I don't know, is she going to come over every day? Is she going to bring her friends and family? Are they going to sing kumbayas down there? Or is she going to want to spend the night and like candles? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I see that
so
difference.
when,
That's a big difference. And thank you for clarifying that, because I was like, I thought I knew, but I was unsure. But you added more light to it than what I had been considering. And I'm sure many people listening to. So when we talk about responding to narcissistic personalities, then right, they want people who are reactive because it gives them
yes,
that little high that they've got a reaction out of you. But people
yes,
who respond with boundaries, they're not getting what they're looking for, so they go looking somewhere else.
yes.
And
So
is
the
that what happened
narcissist
to
will,
your first husband? Is that why he then began cheating on you then, because you had boundaries and he went looking elsewhere? Is that what that was? Or is that something else?
no, no, I wish I could say that was.
Okay.
With my first husband, it was when I went off to law school. And so now all my attention was focused on law school
Okay.
and was not focused on him. And because, and he never came and said, "Hey, Stephany, I'm feeling neglected. I'm feeling like you're not here. Can we have certain nights together? Can we do this or that?" In fact, it was the opposite. He never talked to me, so I had no idea. And law school is very intense. I mean, you work hard, and it's hard work. And in my first semester of law school, also he also said, "I'm tired of hearing you talk about the law. I don't want any part of this." Well, this was my whole life, so he intentionally um, excluded himself from this part of my life, and he went seeking that from someone else. And so, talking about boundaries, no, I did not have boundaries. I um, I became the boundaries place for him. And how many
Yeah.
of us have done that? So I'm confronting all these other women. My husband's married. Why are you talking to a married man? Blah 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 blah. And so I did not have boundaries from him with him. And that's actually one of the things when I was able to let go of the victim story that I had created, when I was able to let go of that, I could see the lessons. Because when you're stuck in that victim story, you can't see any lessons because you didn't do anything wrong. If I didn't do anything wrong,
Right.
there's no lessons, right? I'm
Yeah.
perfect. And so when I was able to do that, I actually got a journal and I sat down and I said, "Okay, we're just going to pretend here. What if my two ex-husbands weren't monsters trying to destroy my life, but what if they were in fact wise teachers sent here to teach me these powerful lessons? What would these lessons be?" And I had to pretend because, meanwhile, in the back of my head and subconsciously, I'm still like, no, they're monsters trying to F up my life. And
Yeah.
so one of the first things that came up was boundaries. And I could say to my first husband, "Thank you, Josh, for showing me that I must have boundaries in my relationships, and I cannot be the boundaries police for someone else. It is not my job, nor is it my responsibility to guard and protect someone else's boundaries." As in, he didn't have boundaries. He was seeking, love and affection and whatever from other women. And so I patrolled his boundaries. "Stay away, stay away." That's not boundaries. We are only responsible for our own boundaries, and we must have boundaries. So going into my second marriage, I thought I had boundaries, but you have 5 kids, so I brought in a toddler fence and I set it up nicely and said, "Here's my boundary." Well, you know what a toddler fence is. They're portable. We can change them. We can shift the designs. We can do whatever we want. And so, I set up my toddler fence in this new relationship, called it a boundary, and he would come knock it over. And I would just pick it up. Oh, okay. Maybe we should put it over here then. Move it, and he'd go run right into it and knock it over. And I pick it up. What's that a boundary? A boundary is something that is firmly planted. A boundary is when something comes and knocks up against it, they fall
It
back.
stays.
Not your
Yeah.
fence doesn't fall down.
Right.
And so, I can say, thank you, Jace, who was husband number two. Thank you for showing me that a toddler fence is not a boundary. I must have a proper boundary in my relationships. But you see, I wasn't able to even go here until I dropped that victim story. And then you could see, the boundaries. This is the for me. This is what you've learned. And this is how you break those patterns. And so, your friend who's on her fifth marriage and keeps calling in these narcissistic people into her life, she's not sitting down, or he is not sitting down and processing through all of this. And I had to go through both of my marriages year by year, month by month. What are the for me's in all this? And then when you're able to do that, then you can have more compassion for who those people are, and have more compassion on yourself for what you went through. And you can forgive yourself for staying too long, forgive yourself for whatever, and you can forgive them for the things that they've done to you. And release it, let it all go, and become the person that you were meant to be.
Oh, there is so much gold in the last 3 minutes. So much. You mentioned forgiveness for yourself and the other person.
Yeah.
What is forgiveness to you, and why is forgiveness for the other person?
So, I know that there's, everyone has their own, yeah, everyone has their own personal thoughts and feelings about forgiveness, but I truly believe, forgiveness sets you free from them. It releases you from them. And forgiveness it's for you. It's for forgiveness. You can forgive a person and you can forgive yourself. It doesn't mean that you deny or really, we're not making excuses for anything that has been done for you. We're just releasing that energetic hold, I guess. That's how I look at it. I forgive because it I feel like it just releases the negative energy from them, to just let it go. And I like the Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian forgiveness. It's I love you, I forgive you, I release you. Just letting that go. And so, but when I viewed my two ex-husbands as monsters trying to destroy my life, I couldn't come to a place where I could forgive them, because I'm still holding on to that attachment to that hurt and the wound and the things that they did to me. Well, why should I forgive them? They did all of this horrible stuff to me. They do not deserve my forgiveness. Well,
Right.
they're not getting you're forgiving them to release you from them.
Yeah.
That's how I view it. And when I was able to make that perspective shift, to see them as teachers who were sent here to teach me these lessons and to give me these golden nuggets of wisdom, a priceless wisdom, then that's where I could have the compassion and I could forgive and let go. And I have.
I see forgiveness the same way. I use an analogy in that it's like money, right? If you loan someone, say $100, and they're not paying you back. They're not paying you back. There comes a time where the time you put in to collect that $100 has cost you a lot more than $100 in effort and in your time. And eventually,
Mm-hmm.
when you give them of that $100, you're not saying what you did was wrong, or you're not saying you weren't wrong. You're not saying it's okay. You're just saying I can't exhaust any more of my time. I can't like
Yeah.
I can't tie myself to that money because it's just cost me so much more. And I feel like forgiving other people is the same thing. It's like saying I just can't exhaust myself of any more emotional toll. I can't exhaust myself of any more spiritual burden or whatever it is that is tied to that idea of collecting from them. And you're just
Yeah.
saying what you did is still wrong. It's still not acceptable, but I just can't exhaust any more effort into that because you're taking so much more from me than that $100 now. And so there's no
Yes.
more on me. And I think that's what really forgiveness is really about is not letting any more being taken from you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. And it's, it's choosing to release all of that, choosing to let it go. I'm not going to sit here and ruminate on the past. I'm not going to ruminate on the relationship that I hoped it would be. That again, that's why so many people stay, because they think, well, if I become all these different people, he'll change, she'll change. Well, they
Right.
won't. Our only responsibility is ourselves. We're responsible
And
for ourselves.
I think viewing people as not monsters, but lessons learned softens that a lot. It makes it so much easier because I've never considered that mindset change of being going from because when it's a monster, you're thinking I've got to protect, right? And
Yeah.
I've got to defend and I've got to fight against it. But when it's a lesson learned, it really makes it an objective experience versus a threatening experience. And it's like,
Hmm.
cool. I feel like it just makes it so much easier. Like just thinking about that just says, oh, yeah, I can move on from a lesson. But if there's a
Yeah.
monster, I'm like, oh, I've got to stand guard the whole time. And that's exhausting. And you can't forgive. You can't untether
No.
yourself from protecting yourself.
No. No. Not
Right.
at all. And and for me, because so many people, it's like, well, it's easier to stay in that victim mindset where they're monsters, because then it validates all these feelings inside us. Well, he did
Mhm.
all this to me, he did all that, he did all that. So if I can keep him as a monster, then I'm validated for everything I went through.
Right.
But the truth is, you are never going to move forward in your life. You are going to just continue to live in misery and suffering and creating this life that you really don't want. And you're going to continue to call in more monsters, because that's what you're focusing on. That's what you're dwelling on. Your life isn't going to get any better. And so, even I tell people, I'm like, you might not fully believe it yet. And that's one of the great things about our subconscious mind, right? We don't have to fully believe everything. We can trick our thoughts, we can trick our mind. And so, it's that's why you got to sit down and you got to process these relationships and get the for me out of there. And when you're able to do that, then you can truly see them as not as monsters. You can see the hurt and the brokenness, and stuff. And like, my first ex-husband, he actually committed suicide a couple months ago. And it's like, they can only live a double life for so long. But my second husband, I really, it took many rounds of releasing him and forgiving him and letting him go. He was the one, he became very violent in the end. And just giving it to God, or giving it to, source, universe, whomever we resonate with, and letting God handle it. letting God handle my vindication instead of me trying to make something happen. Just
Right.
releasing, letting go and releasing and focusing on ourselves and our own healing and our own growth.
I think I love how you bring that up. The When we let God take care of that, right? This like the more I've learned about things like this and other areas of our health and wellness, I've learned how amazing the scriptures are and how much God loves us and that He's like, forgive. He's not telling us to let people off the hook. He's telling us, heal, take care of yourself. Let me take care of that. Right.
Yeah.
That's between me and them. I love that so much.
You know,
Um,
oh, I
no,
was just going to add to that. So, one of the things that a lot of people who've gone through this, we want we want vindication, we want justice, we want that again that validation. We have these so many people have these revenge thoughts, these revenge
yeah.
scenarios that play in our head, and I wanted that as well. It's like, why isn't my ex-husband in jail right now?
Hmm.
Why is he out roaming the streets and doing all of this?
Yeah.
And so I started building this case against him. I was like, well, I'm going to bring him down. I'm going to do all this. Here's all the things he's done, and this is the kind of person. And I and again, I felt, intuitively, I felt God saying, Stephany, let me handle this. There will be vindication, but you focus on you and let me handle the revenge, the vindication. And so releasing it to God, like, okay, I I know that I'm going to be vindicated because that was the word I got. I don't know how it's going to happen. And so I had this, just that belief, and um, and I stopped with all these revenge thoughts. Okay, we got to stop with the revenge thoughts. And I mean, ask any victim of narcissistic abuse or domestic violence. We all have these revenge thoughts. Well, why aren't they locked up? And so when I gave it fully over to God, well, he got a DUI. He got it was his third DUI in 10 years. He never had a DUI when he was with me in a relationship with me. He got a third DUI. And then just a couple months after that, he almost got a fourth DUI. And he got driving while suspended license. He got all these things. And in fact, he's actually in jail right now. And I did not do anything. And
Right.
so I can say I have clean hands in the situation, but also it's because the narcissist likes to turn everything around so that it's on you. Nothing is on me. And God handled the revenge and the vindication. And I have been fully vindicated. And so, that is the power when we release all that. Because when we try to when we try to control all of that, it's not going to go the way we want it. And if I
Right.
were to do something, if I would have had a hand in any of that, he would have flipped the script and he would have blamed me for everything and taken no responsibility. But because God took care of it, he has no one to blame but himself.
Oh man, that is like such great wisdom. That is so great. So I've got a couple more questions. I want to go. How do we're doing all this? We've now changed that mindset, right?
Yeah.
And we're becoming more. How do
Mhm.
we, to use your words from our previous conversation, how do we upgrade ourselves so we can find a much better, more beautiful, more happy life?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so, for me, it was once I got out of these relationships, I got off the floor in my sister's bathroom. I regained my eyesight. It was like, what do I want? What is the life I want, because I don't want to continue to call these men into my life. I don't want any of this. I don't want We weren't meant to have a miserable existence, and so you have to figure out who you are and what you desire and what you want out of life. And you have to figure out what's not working. And so I think I did the analogy of a car. So we have this car, and this car represents us, and things fall apart on this car. So we fix it, right? We fix these little pieces. Okay, so now, I'm still driving around this 1990 something then car that keeps falling apart. I put a new engine in it. I gave it a new paint job. I'm trying to class up this old version of me, but it's no longer working and no longer serving me. So eventually, at some point, we need to upgrade. Let's upgrade our car. Let's get the newer model. This is why new models come out every so many years, because it's a new version. There's the good pieces of the old vehicle, right? But then it's completely upgraded and modern and runs smoothly. And at some point, we have to just stop fixing all these little pieces of us and just say, okay, I'm ready for the upgraded model of me. And so, who am I becoming, and who do I want to become? And so, how can I be? I have 3 little boys. How can I be the most authentic mother to these 3 boys, living the most authentic life, being ourselves? What is it that I truly desire and want to be? And so, as we upgrade who we want to become, we are, in a sense, creating this newer model of ourselves. And one of the things, I was reading this book called The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton or something. I can't remember his name, but he's a cellular biologist, and he says that so we have over 50 trillion little cells in our body. Our body is an empire, but every 11 to 12 months, our cells completely rebirth. And so who I was a year ago is not who I am today. And so you can even look at it like that and say that I am physically no longer the person I was a year ago, because every single cell in my body has metamorphosis, has died and rebirthed itself and been born again. So the cells that I had last year are not the cells in my body. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's a upgraded new version of yourself. And so, but we get to choose. So my body has been renewed. It's been upgraded. This body I am in, my ex-husbands have never seen this version of me. This version of me never experienced what the old version of me went through. I am a completely new person. Would they even recognize me? But what I think happens is that we have this new body, this new version of ourselves, but we want to hold on to that past old version of us. I've been given this upgrade, but I still like that old Chevy I've been driving that has all those hurts and wounds and traumas. But see, we can let that go. That died with when our cells died. When our old cells died, that old version of us died. Embrace this new version of you. Live in this new moment.
I love that. I think that sometimes we hesitate to let go of that because we're worried what other people will think,
Yeah.
or the people who know who we were like, oh, well, you've changed. Like they won't like this new version of us. But if we're using that car analogy, you wouldn't buy a new car and bring your old bumper with you and swap out the bumper
Right?
so people recognized you. People would be like, you're weird. Why did you buy the new car? But people would celebrate that, right? And so I think I really like that a lot because you were like, hey, no, this is me now. Like I've gone through some change. Like I was broken. There were things that happened and I've taken ownership of who I want to be. And so this is the new me. And people who really love you are going to celebrate that with you. They're gonna,
Absolutely. And the people who wanted to hang out in that old Chevy with you,
yeah,
they don't like this new version of you. Well, you know what? You've outgrown those friendships. You've outgrown those people, and that is okay to
yeah,
let that go because a higher version of you, the new model of you, you will attract new, wonderful, beautiful friends into your life. You will attract the people who will support and love and accept this new model of you. And the
yeah,
ones that don't, they are no longer serving you anyways. If they want to keep you stuck, if they want to keep you in your shame, if they want to keep you in guilt, and they want to keep you in that place where you're not moving forward in your life, you don't want those people in your life anyways.
right. Yeah. All right. I want to wrap up with a couple questions, like advice for getting started type questions.
Okay.
What advice do you have to the person who is content being in a relationship because they know if they rock the boat, it's going to get hard. So they're happy giving the narcissist what they want, so that way their life is not harder, and they just learn to
Uh,
tolerate.
so I would say to that person, well, although they're just fooling themselves because they're truly not happy. Because I've been there. Try to do everything to change this person, to become everything this person wants me to be. But it doesn't matter because they will always be unhappy. They're not going to change. You're not going to get that first person back that you fell in love with because that was an illusion. And so I would say if they were honest with themselves, they are unhappy. They're not content. They don't want to be there. They don't want to be in this relationship, but they don't know how to get out. And they don't know all the good that is waiting for them once they get out. And so, someone who is stuck like that, I would say it's a worthiness issue. When you become worthy, you will leave. And if you're still in it, you will get discarded, whether it's discarded emotionally and physically, like like physically they're in the same house, but emotionally there's been the detachment, um, or they will leave, or the narcissist will leave and go seek out someone better because you're not giving them the reactions, you're not playing the game the way they want it played. And so I would say do the work and leave, but
Yeah.
only they know when that is possible for them.
And then the last question is, what can friends and family do for those who are in narcissistic relationships? How can we what can we do for I mean, obviously we can't leave for them. We can't change their mindset for them, but what can we do for them?
I So if you view their relationship and the trauma bond as if they are an addict, then what you can do for them is you can love them. You can tell them that we are a safe house for you. We are a safe place for you. These are our boundaries, though, but we are here for you and we love you. And when you are ready to leave, we will help support you and get you out of that. One thing you cannot do is harp on them. You cannot just tell them, well, why don't you leave, 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 because they will drop you as a friend. And I know that because I've done that with friends as well. And but the friends that says, Stephany, we love you, we care about you. If you need a night, if you need a safe house for the night, we are here, we're available. Because the reality is, for a person to leave a domestic relationship a violent relationship, you know, whether it's or psychologically abusive relationship, it on average it takes 7 to 8 times of them leaving before they actually leave for good because they keep being pulled back in the love bombing. And that happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I filed for divorce, and then, you know, and his mom, he's changed, he loves you, blah blah blah, take him back, and I did, and yeah, he was great for another month or two, but then he went off. And so, yeah, just no judgment, just love the things that you would do for an addict.
Do the same thing. I love
Do the
it.
same thing. That's my advice.
That's incredible. Well, Stephany, this has been awesome. I think that there are so many pearls of wisdom in here, whether no matter what hard people are going through, especially when it's involving a relationship, anybody can learn from the principles that you've talked about today. It
Mm,
doesn't have to be just a narcissistic relationship. It can be anything that they're going through is hard. What changing the mindset from why me to for me, how to upgrade and just take ownership of changing, how to have that growth mindset, and then loving other people and learning how to forgive. I think all of that right there is just great life advice.
yeah.
Thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show, James. It's really, really an honor, and I'm glad I can share with you. So thank you.
Thanks.